The key to IELTS reading is understanding different question types and how they work. Unfortunately, the IDP website gives us as many as 14 types. But I've discovered that these 5 cover between 80 and 100% of an average IELTS reading test. So I'll show you how to find answers to each of them and do it quickly to finish in 60 minutes. And we'll practice together, starting with simpler questions and going up to the most challenging tasks you can find in the IELTS tests. It's Sassy here. Let's get started. First things first, let's have a look at the task. Choose the correct heading for each paragraph or section from the list of headings below. In the middle, there is a box with a list of headings. The questions are at the bottom. If you take IELTS on paper, you'll find the passage on the next page. Basically, you see the task before you read the text or answer any other questions about it. And this shows the best way to solve it. Start with the headings. Well, perhaps read the passage title first to know what the text is about. Read all the headings, highlight keywords, read the first paragraph or section, find the answer, read the next section, and so on. This is the general strategy. Easier said than done, I know. Let's try to solve some matching headings together, starting with simpler questions and getting to the most difficult ones. I'll be giving you tips and strategies as we go along. Before we begin, remember this. Each heading can be used only once. There are more headings than paragraphs, which means that some headings won't be used. Our questions are coming from authentic practice tests by Cambridge English, which I recommend for your practice. Count how many questions you answer correctly. Here is the task. Read the title first, then the headings, then the first paragraph, and try to find the answer. Go ahead and pause the video now and resume once you're ready. Ready? Okay. I think number 4 may be our answer. In the paragraph, we've read about the evolution of the pyramid form that has been argued about, but there is no question that it began with one monument. And option 4, the header 4, reads, a single certainty among other less definite facts. This may be our answer, but let's check other options first. Oh, have a look at number 7. An idea for changing the design of burial structures. And indeed, we've read about the evolution of the pyramid form and how one designer built or one architect built something new. Maybe number 7 is the answer. Quite often, we can't be certain straight away. With our first question, we immediately faced one of the main difficulties. The hardest part is that one paragraph or one heading, depending on which way you look at it, seems to have multiple answers. Here is what you can do about it. First of all, match all the headings on the question sheet, then transfer your answers to the answer sheet. If you're taking IELTS on computer, you can still make notes on the sheet of paper with instructions. So, if you're hesitating between 2 options, note both. If you're not certain about your answer, put a question mark next to it. And a very important one, if you can't find the answer, move on. You'll return to this question later. Go through all the questions, then come back to those you couldn't answer. Let's return to our task. Section B. Pause the video and find the answer. Let's return to our task. Section B. Pause the video and find the answer. Ready to continue? When I'm looking for my answer, I read all the options, even those I've already used to answer other questions, just to make sure that I haven't made a mistake in another question. I think number 7 is perfect here. In this paragraph, we really see the description of how Joseph's official decided to build a different structure, to change the design. So the answer is B7. And this means that we can exclude this option from A. And now we can say that the header for the first paragraph is not number 7. It must be number 4. A4. Here is the next question. Go ahead and pause the video. Ready? I think the key lies in this sentence. The weight of the enormous mass was a challenge for the builders. And the header is a difficult task for those involved, C2. You might have heard that there are hacks or easy ways to find answers. Let me prove they don't work. One of those pieces of advice is to read only the first sentence of each paragraph, or the first and the last. This doesn't work with matching headings. This task is designed to make you read everything. Have a look at where we found the key information to answer the first 3 questions. Definitely not in the first sentences. Another hack that doesn't work is looking for matching keywords or the same words in the passage and in the heading. The truth is, the main keywords are usually paraphrased. Think about the meaning and pay attention to paraphrasing. Look, here is our first question. The words in purple, there is no question that make us think about a single certainty. And the words in green, the pyramid form has been argued about, are referred to as other less definite facts. There are no matching keywords at all. Have a look at paragraph B. Tombs from the paragraph are paraphrased as borough structures. Instead of changing design in the heading, in the paragraph we see the actual description of the design, rectangular monuments or taller, more impressive ones. No word repetition. So, how did you find the questions we've solved together so far? They are from part 2 of the IELTS academic test. Matching headings in part 3 are even more challenging. Here is one reason why. On the left, you can see the first page of the passage from part 2. There is a letter next to each paragraph, A, B, C, D, which means that you are looking for a heading for each paragraph. The passage on the right is from part 3. Each section includes several paragraphs. The second paragraph for section C is actually on the next page. Each section covers more ideas and requires a deep understanding. Now, I'd like to challenge you to some of the hardest questions in IELTS reading. Ready? Here is our next task. The title of our passage is Attitudes Towards Artificial Intelligence. Could you find a hotter topic for our lesson? Here is the first question. Read the headers, read the section, find your answer. Pause the video now. Ready? Here is what I've found. AI is almost always better at forecasting than we are. And header 3, the superiority of AI projections. Is it the answer? Oh, but have a look here. We still seem to deeply lack confidence in AI predictions. And option 6, widespread distrust in AI innovation. So which answer is correct? We can't know right now. We have to leave this question as it is and come back to it later. Section B. Go ahead and pause the video. It looks like header 6 actually belongs to B, this section. Widespread distrust in AI innovation. And indeed we've read that doctors didn't trust Watson at all. When Watson gave the same recommendation as doctors, they didn't count it. When it gave a different recommendation, they concluded it was incompetent. And this created even more suspicion. I'm pretty sure B6. And this means that the best header for section A is 3. Section C. Pause the video now. Let's continue. We've read that trust in other people is often based on understanding and experience, but AI is still fairly new and unfamiliar. People feel anxious, and they are acutely aware of instances where AI goes wrong. Read option 2. Reasons why we have more faith in human judgment than in AI. That's our answer. And the next question is D. Pause the video now. Ready? We've read that watching the film polarized the participants' attitudes. And if you're not familiar with the word polarized, there is an explanation in the next sentence. Optimists became more extreme in their enthusiasm, and skeptics became even more guarded. In the next paragraph, we have more explanation, but even now we can say that D1, an increasing divergence of attitudes towards AI. Divergence means that your views or your positions are becoming further and further apart. They diverge, while if they're getting closer, they converge. Section E. Go ahead and pause the video. Ready to see the answer? We've read about how to improve trust in AI, and it seems that previous experience can significantly improve people's opinions. And also, another solution may be to review more about the algorithms. Read header 7. Encouraging openness about how AI functions. E7. Section F. Pause the video now. Let's continue. Here is what I found. Allowing people some control could improve trust. For example, if people were allowed the freedom to slightly modify an algorithm, they felt more satisfied with its decisions. Read option 5. The advantages of involving users in AI processes. They trust it more, they're more satisfied. These are definite advantages. Our answer is F5. Let's start with some quick and easy wins. The task reads, do the following statements agree with the information given in the passage? Answer, true, false, not given. So which answer formats are acceptable? You can write your answers in capital letters like in the task, or in small letters, or capitalize the first letter. Or actually, you can just write the first letter, T, F, and G. But there is another type of task, yes, no, not given, which is very similar. What if you mix up the two and you answer yes instead of true? Well, I found the official confirmation that this answer will be marked as correct. So if the answer is true, you can say true, you can say T, you can say yes, you can say Y. I'm gonna link this official video in the description if you'd like to check it out. But now I'd like to show you something. So these are several sets of answers. Have a look at them. Can you spot anything interesting? Well, in all of them, we've used all three options. And indeed, this is the case in all the true, false, not given questions I could find in official practice tests. And I think this is a useful tip, and it actually saved me from making a mistake when I was preparing for this video. I was answering questions, and I noticed that I had 3 false answers in a row. And I started thinking, well, that's not typical, that's weird. And indeed, one of them was true, so I found the missing information, and that tip helped me. Anyways, before you can attempt to answer any question, you need to locate the information in the passage. How can you do that? The very first thing you should know is that answers come in order. You can read the first question, start reading the passage until you find your answer, read the next question, continue reading the passage, and so on. So that saves a lot of time. Keywords can also help you locate the answer. There are two types of keywords in IELTS reading. So the first is names, surnames, locations, dates. So those keywords will be repeated in the passage. And if you see the date and you see the date in the passage, so that's where the answer is going to be. The second type is the main words which determine the answer, the main words in the statement. So those words will be paraphrased. Basically, you can't look for the direct word match between the passage and the statement to tell you if the answer is true or false. No, that information will be paraphrased. Anyways, let's have a look at a real task to see how it works in practice. We have 3 statements and several paragraphs. Let's have a look at those keywords. The first statement is, during the third phase of construction, sandstone slabs were placed in both the outer areas and the middle of the Stonehenge site. Can you see any? Well, the third phase of construction, that's a period. That's our keyword. And I can actually see it here. So our answer is going to be somewhere here. There is another keyword, sandstone slabs. This one may be repeated or paraphrased. In our case, it's repeated. I wanted to show you something. So here we also have that the slabs, or those like big stones, were placed in both the outer areas and the middle of the site. So these words will determine the answer, and they will definitely be paraphrased. Now, the second statement. There is scientific proof that the blue stones stood in the same spot until approximately 1600 BCE. So the first keyword is blue stones. Again, maybe repeated or paraphrased, but the date should be there. And indeed, here is the date. And actually, here are the blue stones. And the third, John Aubrey's claim about Stonehenge was supported by 20th century findings. Can you see keywords? There are 2, right? The name and the date. And indeed, I can see the name here. But probably the whole paragraph is about him. But the date is actually at the end. So probably the answer is closer to the end of the paragraph. That's how it works. Let's continue. Once you've located where the answer is, it's a simple matter of deciding whether the answer is true or false or it's not given, right? Well, basically, the difficulty of these questions depends on where you find them in your test. Questions in the first part are easier, and you may often find your answer in a single sentence. In part 2, you may need to read a couple of sentences. In part 3, you may need to read a whole paragraph to really understand what the answer is. And the devil is in the details. You really need to read the statement very carefully, read the passage, the key sentence or sentences, and check that each part of the sentence has the same meaning. Then the answer is true. If there is a direct contradiction, the answer is false. If the passage is talking about this thing in your statement, but you can't say if it's true or false, it's not given. I have more insights for you in this video, many more, but to truly appreciate them, you first need to experience the problem. So let's try to solve several questions together, and then we continue with our strategies. Ready? Starting with the questions you've just seen. Here is our first question. Pause the video now, find the answer, and then resume the video. Ready? So we need to understand whether those slabs or big stones were placed in both the outer areas and the middle of the site. Let's have a look. So slabs were arranged, so instead of placed, we have arranged into an outer crescent or ring. Yes, outer areas. Then we have some extra information we don't really need, and some of them stand tall in the center. Yes, in the middle. The answer is true. Ready to have a look at question number 10? Go ahead and pause the video. Ready to continue? Let's have a look at this statement. There is scientific proof that the blue stones stood in the same spot until approximately our date. So here we can read radiocarbon dating. So that's our scientific proof. It's revealed that work continued until 1600 BCE, with the blue stones in particular being repositioned, moved multiple times. So they didn't stand in the same spot. There is a direct contradiction, and the answer is false. Question number 11. Pause the video now. Ready to continue? So John Aubrey's claim about Stonehenge was supported by the findings. And actually we can read about what the claim was here. John Aubrey made the claim that Stonehenge was the work of Druids who had important religious, judicial, and political roles in Celtic society. So Druids were Celts. Why is it important? Well, here we have the date. Was his claim supported by the 20th century findings? In the mid-20th century, radiocarbon dating demonstrated that Stonehenge stood more than 1,000 years before the Celts inhabited the region. So, his claim was not supported. It was actually overturned. The answer is false. And as you can see in this question, you really need to read the whole paragraph because you need to understand what the claim was, and it's at the beginning of the paragraph. And you need to understand that Druids are Celts. And again, this information is given in the middle. And then you can understand that the claim was not supported at the end of the paragraph. So just looking for keywords and trying to understand the answer will not work. Now, let's talk about yes, no, not given questions, which are very similar. But true, false, not given questions are about facts. So a fact may be true. Yes, no questions are about someone's opinion. We don't want to claim that this opinion is true. Maybe it's not. But is it what this person thinks? Yes. That's why we answer yes and no. In our previous set of practice questions, we took those from part 1, the easiest part. Now let's have a look at some questions from part 2. Ready? Pause the video and find the answer. Ready to see the answer? Well, when you're starting to read a new passage, always check out the title and the subtitle first. That will help you understand what the passage is about and to put your statement into the context. So ours is about making moral decisions. Yes, that's part 2, so we don't have as many dates and surnames to locate those answers. We have to operate using more subtle clues, which are usually paraphrased. So making moral decisions, and here we can read moral guides and gatekeepers. Yeah. And in the end, we might lose our freedom to discriminate in favor of our own communities. So the machines may prevent us from promoting the interests of our communities. To discriminate in favor means to promote. So the answer is yes. Here is the next question. Pause the video now. Ready? This one is about Silicon Police. And the statement says they would need to exist in large numbers in order to be effective. Yes or no? So are we ready for Silicon Police? They might be so good at doing it, we won't notice them. So what's the answer? They might be quite invisible. We won't even know if there are a lot of them or very few. This is an example of the answer not given. Here is the next. Pause the video now. Okay, this one is funny because the answer is in the same sentence as before. So many people are comfortable, they are okay with the prospect of their independence being restricted by machines. And the answer is here. Are we ready for Silicon Police or machines limiting our options or restricting our independence? Few of us are likely to welcome such a future. Few means not many. We're not likely to welcome such a future. The answer is no. There is a direct contradiction. Okay, now I've prepared for you two special questions that can teach you something very important that a lot of students struggle with. But you have to solve the questions before I tell you what that is. Okay, pause the video, answer both questions, and then resume it. Okay, 27. So people first referred to Leonardo da Vinci as a genius 500 years ago. Yes or no? Okay, the word genius is associated with Leonardo da Vinci. It means, yes, people call him a genius. But what about 500 years ago? Have passed since he died. So we don't know when people called him a genius first. The answer is not given. The current climate crisis is predicted to cause more deaths than the plague. And we can read about the plague here, and it caused 200 million deaths. Terrible. What about the climate crisis? So it's predicted to cause widespread displacement, extinctions, and death. How many? We don't know. So we can't say if this number is likely to be larger or smaller than the plague. Again, the answer is not given. So both answers were not given. I know that those may be particularly difficult to find. And I also know that some people think that, oh, if I can't find the answer at all, it means it's not given. But as you've just seen, it's not quite the case. You should still be able to locate the paragraph, the sentences where the idea from your statement is discussed. But then some key piece of information, like the number, is missing, and you can't say if the statement is true or false, yes or no, so it's not given. And now I'd like to invite you to solve some of the most challenging questions you may find in part 3 of the test. Are you with me? Here is the first question. Pause the video now. And let's have a look at the answer together. So as you can see, this question is right from the end of the test. And as you can see, it's pretty difficult to find any keywords. No names, no dates, no even like a very specific word like bluestones or slabs, which we could look for. So we really have to look for the meaning, and it's definitely gonna be paraphrased. I guess it's a bit easier for you now because I've given you the passage, but here it is. There is something exciting about passing on skills and knowledge you have just mastered or recently acquired. Yes, exactly. The same meaning. Yes. Next, pause the video. And here is the answer. So this one is about the high achieving students and that they should be prioritized. Their goals should be prioritized. But actually, here he says, we need the many to flourish. To flourish is to succeed, to achieve great results, not suffer at the expense of a few bright stars. So bright stars are our high-achieving students. No, they shouldn't be the priority, according to this article. That's why the answer is no. And the last one, pause the video now. Ready? Okay, so this one is about outdoor activities with teachers and classmates, and that they can improve students' outcomes or results, grades in the classroom. And again, it's not very clear where exactly the description is, no strong keywords, but of course the description of the hike is here. Yes, he goes on a hike with his students, a mixed bunch, and they make it together. Does it improve their outcomes in the classroom? We don't know. The answer is not given. Let's start with the matching information task. In this reading passage 2, you are given 5 sections to read through. Your task is to figure out which section contains certain information based on a set of statements provided below. Now, this type of question might remind you of matching headings questions, but there is an important difference between them. In matching headings, you need to find the main idea of each paragraph, which requires you to read everything. On the other hand, with matching information, you're asked to locate specific details within those sections. So it's more about finding certain information. How do you go about solving matching information questions? Our goal is to find answers quickly without getting lost in all the information. So here is my strategy. First, read the passage title to get an idea of what it's about. Secondly, look out for this note. You may use any letter more than once. In theory, this means that you're allowed to use the same option A, B, or C multiple times. But what I've discovered is that most likely one of the sections contains 2 answers. Next, carefully read through all the questions, highlighting any relevant keywords, and try to memorize what each question is about. Don't spend too much time learning questions, but pay attention. Then go to the passage and read the first section or part of the section if it's long. Return to your questions and check if any of them have been mentioned and mark your answers. Remember that not all sections contain an answer, so it's okay if you don't find anything relevant in the first section. In this case, move on to the next section and keep repeating the process until you've found all the answers. If you finish the passage and you haven't found some of the answers and have no idea where they were, move on. Return to these questions only after you answer the rest, as it may take a lot of time. Now it's time to try this strategy in practice. I've prepared for you some questions from Cambridge Practice Test 17, Test 2. And I recommend using these tests for your practice because they're just like the real exam. Please count how many questions you answer correctly and post your result in the comments at the end. Let's see how well you can cope with this task. And here is section A. Yes, it's pretty long. To start, read the title, find the keywords, then read the section and compare it to the questions below. If that's too much to read, read the first half and then the second half. Go ahead and pause the video now. Have you found your answer? Let's continue. I found this bit at the very beginning. It took at least 3,000 years for humans to learn how to domesticate the wild tomato and cultivate it for food. Now, two separate teams in Brazil and China have done it all over again in less than 3 years. And they have done it better in some ways. This is question 17, a comparison between the early domestication of the tomato and more recent research. Here is the second section. Pause the video now. Done? This answer is spread over several sentences. Wild tomatoes produce pea-sized fruits. People transformed the plant, which resulted in desirable traits or features, such as larger fruits. Sometimes the desirable mutations come with less desirable traits. For instance, the tomatoes grown for supermarkets have lost much of their flavor. Now you know why our tomatoes are so tasteless. The answer is 15b, an explanation of how problems can arise when focusing only on a certain type of tomato plant. Basically, they try to grow large tomatoes, and the problem is now they are tasteless. Before we look into the matching features questions, I want you to try one more section because there is something unusual here. Please pause the video now. Ready? The section discusses what changes were made in newly domesticated tomatoes. And then we read, they're quite tasty, a little bit strong, and very aromatic. The answer is 18C, a personal reaction to the flavor. Have you found anything else? How about this? They managed to create a strain or a kind of tomatoes resistant to a common disease called bacterial spot race. And in question 14, we're looking for a type of tomato that can resist a dangerous infection. To resist an infection is paraphrased as resistant to a disease. The next question type has a really useful trick that can help you a lot. It's matching features where you need to match a set of questions or statements 19, 20, 21 to a list of options in the box A, B, C. Quite often, in this type of task, you need to match research findings to a list of researchers. That's common in IELTS Academic. In IELTS General Training, you may have a list of professions or kinds of sports. So what's the strategy? Firstly, the questions which have numbers are not in order. So don't try to answer question 19 and then 20, 21. It doesn't work. The good news is that options are in order. So first you read about Kutha, then Gao, then Vanek. There is a complication though. You may read about the same researcher several times. So you definitely find Kutha first and Gao second. But then you may read about Kutha and Gao again before you get to Vanek. It still helps. To start, just like with matching information questions, carefully read all the questions and highlight keywords. Now, here is how you can answer these questions faster. Scan the passage for options. In our case, surnames. In many question types, scanning doesn't work because when you scan the text, you don't get an understanding of what this passage is about. But in matching features, that's fine as long as you have very specific options like surnames or professions. When you find an option mentioned, slow down and carefully read the information about it. Check if any of the questions match this information. Then scan for the next option. Let me show you how it works in practice. We're going to use the same passage about tomatoes. These questions come after the matching information questions you've just completed. So my tip is, when you start a new section, check all the question types. If we'd done that, all your surnames would have already been highlighted and the beginning of the passage would look like this. Can you see where you should start reading? Go ahead, pause the video and find your answers. Here is the first clue. There are 50,000 edible plants or plants we can eat in the world, but 90% of our energy comes from just 15 crops. And we have question 23. Humans only make use of a small proportion of the plant food available on Earth. Indeed, there are 50,000 plants and we mainly eat 15 of them. We don't make use of the other plants. Answer 23A. Information about the second scientist, Kai-Xie Gao, doesn't match any of the questions. He's just saying that they may domesticate new plants, but among similar questions, we're looking for the adaptation to future environmental challenges or domestication of one wild fruit. So that's not it. The next section. Not a single researcher has been mentioned here. We can skip it. In this section, we can read about Kutha. Pause the video now. Ready? Well, there are no answers here. I kept this section deliberately to show you that you may read paragraph after paragraph without finding any answers, and it doesn't mean you've missed something. Next. Joyce Vanek. I promise there is an answer. You know the drill. Pause the video now. Let's continue. So, Vanek decided to domesticate the ground cherry or golden berry. There is potential for this to be a commercial crop, says Vanek. But she adds that taking the work further would be expensive. Have a look at 22. Efforts to domesticate one wild fruit are limited by the costs involved. It's expensive. And now we have 3 questions left and 3 small paragraphs. Can you do that? Pause the video now. Okay, Jonathan Jones thinks it will be hard for new foods to grow so popular with farmers and consumers that they become new staple crops. A staple crop is rice, for example. We eat a lot of it. So the answer is 20D. The idea of growing and eating unusual plants may not be accepted on a large scale. They may not become our staples. Next, Gao says they could create crops that will thrive or grow really well even as the planet warms. Have a look at question 19. Domestication of certain plants could allow them to adapt to future environmental challenges when the planet warms. And finally, Kutha didn't want to reveal or say publicly which species were in his team's sights. The answer is 21A. It's not advisable for the future direction of certain research to be made public. Okay, you can find multiple choice questions in sections 2 and 3 of the IELTS reading test. There are 2 types of them, questions with 4 options and 1 answer, and questions with 5 options and 2 answers. In questions with 1 correct answer, you must choose between 4 options, A, B, C, or D. In the other type, you must choose 2 letters from 5 options. One type of these questions is much more complex than the other, but let's examine the strategies for both of them beginning with questions with one answer. These usually come in sets of 3 to 5 questions and may be in section 2 or 3. One of the most helpful tips is knowing this. Multiple choice questions with one answer come in the same order as the information is presented in the passage. This means that you can read the first question, find the answer, then read the next question, find the answer, and so on. If you do that, you always know what exactly you're looking for. I've tried different ways of answering them, and this one seems to work best for me. So let's see if it works for you. First of all, carefully read the question and highlight the keywords that can help you locate the answer. Actually, quite a few of these questions tell you exactly where it is. In the first paragraph or in the second paragraph. Some don't. Have a look at question 29. We have a surname, Pachidi. Surnames are always keywords. Highlight them. In texts about research, there may be several different pieces of research by one scientist. We're interested in the one about telecommunications. In question 30, the keyword is Erwan Migoi. In a paper-based exam, just underline your keywords. In a computer-based test, select the word, right-click, highlight. Before you start reading the passage, briefly look through the options. Don't spend too much time, just skim through to get a feel of what you're going to read about. Then go to the passage, find the first paragraph you need, and read it. When you get back to the question and read the options again, you may still be unable to answer it, and that's expected. That's why you should assess each option. All or most of the options are usually discussed in the passage. You should take each option one by one and compare it to the information in the passage. Eliminate or cross out incorrect options. This will help you narrow down your choices and increase your chances of selecting the correct answer. Look for synonyms, as words in the text are usually paraphrased, not repeated. And lastly, make sure you read all the options before making your final choice, as sometimes the correct answer may not be the first one that comes to mind. Let's do 2 practice tasks together to see how the strategy works in practice, and then we'll talk about the most complex type of multiple choice questions. But first, a question from section 2. You've seen it before. Go ahead, pause the video and find the answer. Ready to continue? Let's assess each option. A. They adapt quickly to the environment. Actually, I can't find anything about it. Let's leave it for now. What about B? The risk they pose has been exaggerated or made larger than it really is. Here I found this. We mess with them at our peril. To mess with something means to get involved or deal with something harmful, and peril is danger. So this is the opposite of option B. Cross it out. C. They're more plentiful in animal life than plant life, or there are more microbes in animals than plants. Is it true? Our passage says that they are everywhere in animals and plants, so we don't know if animals have more microbes or not. This means this option is incorrect. Finally, D. They will continue to exist for longer than the human race. Indeed, in the passage I found this. They will outlive us. They will live longer than us, the human race. Option D is our answer. If we think about our options, Some statements are clearly wrong, but sometimes there is no information to confirm if the statement is right or wrong. The information is not given in the passage. This means this is an incorrect option because we are looking for a statement that has the same meaning as the passage. Now, let me show you a slightly different type of question from section 3, where questions tend to be harder. Pause the video and find the answer. Ready? What did Pachidi observe? Here, options are quite similar, so it may be helpful to find the differences. Steph disagreed with AI, artificial intelligence, felt resentful or bitter and angry, or they made sure AI produced the results they wanted, or they allowed AI to carry out the tasks instead of themselves. In this example, each option is not discussed in the passage. Rather, we need to read it all to get the general idea. I haven't found anything really about options A, B, or D, but we've got this. People develop strategies to make the algorithm work to their own advantage. And the same idea is confirmed again. They feed the algo with false data to reach their targets. This means they make sure AI produces the results that they want. Before we look at the second type of these questions, I'd like to remind you that if you're looking for a step-by-step IELTS study plan with links to all the resources, you can download mine in the description. It's free. Okay, questions with 5 options and 2 answers. Each of the answers gives you 1 point. These questions are usually at the end of section 2, and you may get either one set of questions worth 2 points or 2 sets of questions worth 4 points. Despite being in section 2 rather than 3, I find that these questions may be even harder than those in the last section. Here's why. In IELTS Reading, answers to multiple choice questions with 2 answers may be anywhere in the passage. These questions are usually in section 2. So first, you may find a set of matching headings or matching sections questions, which require reading the whole passage to answer them. Then you get another type of questions, for example, filling the blanks. And finally, at the very end of the section, our questions come. So you're expected to have read everything, and the answers may be anywhere. Let me show you. Have a look at this question, just the question itself. Which of the 2 following statements does the writer make about the discoveries of the Barnett's team? The surname will help us locate the answer, right? Not quite. By the time you get to this question, you've already solved a set of matching sections questions, so you've read the passage. And if you were following my advice, you've highlighted the keywords in the text. Names, dates, names of theories, and so on. So here is the passage and our keyword. The whole text is about Barnett and his team, apart from perhaps the first 2 sections, A and B. Because there is too much to read, I'm just going to show you where I found the answers directly. Each option was discussed, mainly in sections D, E, and F, but we had no way of knowing there would be nothing in C. And the last option about Auckland, which turned out to be incorrect, was mentioned all over the passage. So you can see the word Auckland highlighted in red. I've color-coded the options and where you can find the description in the passage. So if you'd like to look into this question on your own, go ahead, pause the video now. But together, let's solve the next one, or to be precise, the next 2. In the question, the keywords are the Viking Age, and I found the section about the Viking Age for you. It's G. In the next section H, the writer is discussing prehistory, and the dates highlighted in green are different to those during the Viking Age. So that's why we know that our answers are in section G. Now, go ahead, pause the video and find the answers. Ready to continue? Let's look at each option one by one. Option A. Hunters at this time benefited from an increased demand for goods. Indeed, we can read about a booming demand for hides and antlers. The business must have been good for hunters. Yes, the meaning is the same. Option A is correct. Option B is about the greatest growth in the wealth of Vikings, but I couldn't find anything about it. Let's move on. Option C, Vikings didn't rely on ships alone to transport goods. Indeed, in the paragraph, we can read that we usually think about ships, but plenty of goods traveled on overland routes. This option is correct. Actually, we've already found the two answers. If I were short of time, I'd perhaps move on to the next question at this point. But if we decide to check each option, well, option D. Norwegian towns attracted traders from around the world. And we know they were trading with Europe and Middle East. But around the world, no information. Option E. Vikings were primarily interested in their trading links with the Middle East. Again, according to the text, although they traded with the Middle East, we don't know which area the Vikings were mainly interested in. As you can see, some of the questions with two options require searching all over the passage, while others can be answered by carefully examining just one paragraph. I find that these section 2 questions are pretty tricky and may require a lot of time. If you can't find your answers quickly, answer questions from part 3 and then return to these questions. Multiple choice questions with two answers are more common in the academic reading, while those with one answer are used in both types of test. The next group of questions is missing words. That's where you'll find a short summary of the passage with some gaps, and you need to find the words in the passage to fill in those gaps. Let's do some practice. Here is a task. Complete the summary below. Choose no more than 2 words from the passage for each answer. So this means you can have 1 or 2 words for each answer. Answers come in order. You can find answer number 1 before answer number 2 and then answer number 3. And bear in mind that you must find the precise words in the passage and copy them, not just filling gaps with some words that make sense. Okay, ready? Go ahead, pause the video and find the answers. Ready? Here they are. Frustration, first-time user, and essential. Let's have a look at each of them. Question number 1. In the passage, DIY products are a source of expense and frustration. But the question asks for what feeling consumers have. An expense is not a feeling, which means the answer is frustration. Number 2. Actually, these 2 sentences in the text and in the summary are pretty similar. The paraphrasing is very light, and the answer is first-time user. Please note that the article A is not part of the answer. It's already included in the summary. And question number 3. Essential information is omitted or left out, which are synonyms. In the missing words questions, it's important to locate the correct sentence and copy the words from the text. Even if you can read the question and think that, oh, this word matches the meaning perfectly, don't do that. find the word and copy it. And bear in mind that the words around the correct answer are always paraphrased, so don't look for the exact keywords, look for synonyms, look for paraphrasing. And remember your instructions, not more than one word or not more than 2 words, which means 1 or 2 words. The answers come in order. In our case, we had a summary, but you may have a flowchart, a table, a diagram, or just notes. It doesn't really matter because the way you look for those missing words is always the same. If you've reached this point in the video, very well done indeed. You're putting real efforts into your preparation, and I hope this video showed you some techniques you can use in your test. The next step is to try them on a Cambridge practice test. I always recommend these tests because they're just like real exams. So thank you so much for watching this video. Good luck with your preparation and your exam. Bye!